Kasakanita Siwandalushne. Initiate out on the travel so the travel so Birsti beginning dressa Southern Eagle Dayu Rustusa Kazlacho Chinga Nalazeo beginning dressa Yigo is to the Dale to the Noni Yaru Sanales to Snake out the need transfer and Nase Late Ado. Horizon na paz is intereses ni. Horizon asi sa dunecho echala ni almost sans.
Yes, nechala ni ahong stel sana. Good evening, salot ina edlanot Oh my goodness, kuthalant and ohalon 30,000. Essa ziba den os nila day for sure sound la Willis Janvier Hushin Telas Tuazi La Loche Saskatchewan way up north on the Sun Treaty 8 territories and Clearwater River Dene Nation band member at the Estlio and Dunziniga Jonia Treaty 4 territories RC home of the Cream AT Sioux Assiniboine Lakota. Hello to Nine Dog outs Errol Ozzy. Maybe a Teneno to Saskatoon to maybe Join Regina to everywhere. Torget Dene not Deonala. One thing Dene or even La Lajutzi in Dene de Dok asi het Tionala Snila. You know? Dok any Yasi for some reason you always just run into someone no Neno's in Dene to Ehal nak ade dene nali o jele dene anagaya tiu. Hey. Dene barasudio. Barasuti. Yeah, I'm just tonight. No habasha guess who's We anaya tsin lolia. Navajo Nation tsin. Chalakwaza. Hey Julius. Chalakwaza video Facebook abul on asa weaving another into a rug holeo traditional way yit video banasnila but you can check him out TikTok is a cowboy wool boy ulye but in TikTok and Tyrell Descheny ulye Jean-Thel to bahal huntaida you know, sa duno de la noya tie yan se dendit, I mean, be tiedit as a kola sunya rail dinaza. But obviously, tot ina yel tion de so. Question, you know what's in it? Derwood Johnson, BJ Mercury, hello from Wollaston. Dance egua, Azure. Dance egua. Sharon Yazzie, hello. Geraldine Begay. Hi, Geraldine. Yate. So, with that, welcome, Must-See Cho, for joining us tonight. I'm going to let him get ready here. And Tyrell Descheny. I hope I got it right again. You know, it's interesting how we're somehow related, but a little bit different. So with that, here is Tyrell. Tyrell Yate, how are you doing? Atlanta.
Yate so anon so to Haitian Daniki Yate. Good evening, everyone who's watching. My name is Tyrell Descheny. I am from Rock Point, Arizona, and I am doing pretty good this evening. Thank you.
Hey, yes, thank you for joining me here today. You know, it's It's always good, like I said, to get our distant relatives together and united to share each other's culture. I mean, we're all somehow related, but our cultures are somehow a little bit different too. So, thank you, masicho. How do you say thank you in Dene?
So in Navajo, we would say ahead is just a simple thank you. But if you want to extend it to something more, you would say ahead in Chicago, meaning thank you very much. So ahead in general,
Ahehe. Ahehe.
ahead.
Aheha.
Yeah,
Aheha.
almost there.
Aheha. I'm gonna practice that. Aheha. Yeah, cool. Cool. Yeah, so I like I said, I found you on one of the videos. It was just like a video. I don't even remember what it was shared on, but you were making a rug. You're a male weaver, and just maybe share with us how you got into that and what it means to the Navajo culture.
Okay. Let me just go ahead and reintroduce myself again. Yat et anotsa she et Tyrell Descheny in she Deschany Descheny Nishlon Ashe Bashachin Kenya Ani Dashiche Dod Kanazat in Dashnelle Adon le quit tenant had as aha dent nasha the quit the jada had it in Walyanigi a kehasht a akut ad nanshle ado ashlogi a ashlo. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyrell Descheny. My clans are White Mountain started the Red Street clan. I am born for the Red Bottom clan. My maternal grandparents are the Towering House clan, and my my paternal grandparents are the Tangle clan. And I'm sorry, I live in Rock Point, Arizona, but where I live, and I am a male weaver in Navajo. So for me, weaving goes all the way back to when I was young. I always had an interest in wanting to learn how to weave, but I just never really had the right person to teach me. Throughout all the years, there was always sort of these barrier walls that kept coming up. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago is when I really said I'm going to learn one way or another, whether someone's going to help me or not. So with that in mind, one day secretly bought some of the supplies for it. And one day when I was home alone, everybody went to town and I saw my opportunity to set it up. So I never knew how to set it up. I had an idea just based off of what I was told and what I heard and what I seen people do. So I started off with just a simple, small little Navajo loom. But when it came to actually setting it up, there were some parts that I skipped or I missed. But that didn't stop me until one day I finally figured it out, and not completely, but I was sort of doing it in secret until one day my dad he walked in and he saw me. I was kind of hesitant to tell him, and I thought he was gonna like be upset with me or say something negative, but it was actually the opposite. He encouraged me just as he did when it came to whether it was beading or doing silversmith or making necklaces. He encouraged me to learn as much as I can. So that sort of pushed me more to do it better, to do it right the next time. So everything pretty much fell into place for me. There was only one part where I needed help, which was the bedelsonde, which is on the Navajo loom. Some of you who are familiar with the Navajo loom, there's a rod, a stick that you pull to bring the back warp forward. And in Navajo, we call it bedelsonde. So that was the only one part that I could never figure out how to do. So I ended up going to one of my great grandmas. Her name is Lucy Begay, also from Rock Point. I one evening I went and she showed me how to set it up, and she sort of laughed about me because of how it was set up. It wasn't nothing professional, of course, but she did say that she was very proud of me to wanting to in our community. And for her, she's been weaving for some 60 plus years of her life. And pretty soon she went to her back room and she started bringing out all these other rugs and all these other looms that she had done previously or that she was working on. So seeing her work pushed me to do what she has been doing for so many years. And from then on, I just pretty much learned a lot because I not only learned how to weave and what to do, what not to do, but I also learned a lot about myself as well as who I am as an individual.
Mhm.
So in Navajo, they always say each rug will teach you something new about yourself. And sure enough, that's what I can see what they mean by that. And
Mhm.
from the time that I started to now, I always tell people that I'm a self-taught Navajo weaver. Even though I have family members who also weave, who are well known for their weavings, just their little tips and advice is what also pushed me to do it all on my own. And over the years, I've come to find out that some of the Navajo weavers who I look up to, they're also self-taught as well. So through all of it, through from beginning to now, I'm very proud that I learned on my own because in Navajo there was a time when I grew up with the mindset that men aren't supposed to weave. So
Mm.
that was one of the barriers that sort of held me back.
Is
But
that why you sorry, is that why you had to hide it and do it secretly?
yeah,
Okay.
so that's why I was sort of hesitant to even start it.
Mhm.
Because like I said, I was told that men aren't supposed to weave, and only Navajo medicine men who perform ceremonies were allowed to do that.
Mm.
But from the time that I started to now, I have met so many Navajo male weavers who weave who are not medicine people. So and one of our traditional stories, that's one of the teachings, is that Navajo men, they were actually the first people to weave, and then they taught the women how to weave. And I'm pretty sure it varies throughout the whole Navajo society, culture. And one thing I always like to say is I'm just speaking from my perspective. I do not speak for the entire Navajo Nation. I do not speak for all Navajo weavers and so on and so forth. So I'm just talking from what I know and how I know it and what I was told. So with how big of a Navajo nation that we are, everything varies. Some people are taught different, some people are told differently. So that's pretty much my whole journey on when I started up until now is I am all self-taught.
Mm. Was it like hard? I know you had to secretly do it and then you had to figure out a few little things, but was it hard for you to pick it up or did it just come to you?
Surprisingly, it came pretty easy to me. I think it's just like I had that mindset at a young age of wanting to actually do it. One example that I use is how they say you can take a horse to drink some water, but you can't make it drink. And same thing applies for some of us. Some people, they want to weave, they're born to weave. And then there's also some Navajos who I hear stories from saying that their mom made them weave or their grandma made them weave, but to this day they don't weave. So it sort of varies throughout the Navajo weaving society, you could sort of say.
Mhm.
So for me, my mom, she used to weave just when she was a young girl, but that was about it because she was raised by her grandma who also wove. And then
Mhm.
my grandma, she used to weave up until she had to go to college, start working, and she stopped from there. So for me, this is my only source of income. So it's something that I love, something that I'm passionate about, and something that I want the world to see, because I always say that my weaving speaks for itself, and I can only bring it to life just by weaving what I want to weave, what I feel needs to be woven.
Mm, that's cool. That's you know, I didn't I mean, we'll get into the business part of it in a bit, but is it something like kind of like a language is taught, from a young age, like young girls, like you said, maybe it's not young boys, but at a young age, are you taught to learn to weave and make these household items, I guess, in order to be sustainable, I guess, in
At one point in time, yes, I would say that it was that way of lifestyle.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is nowadays there's a lot of people who don't know how to weave, so they can't teach their kids. And someone like me, like I said, I'm self-taught. But
Yeah.
same with the language, it should be something that starts from home.
Yeah.
Everything should start from home. All your teachings, your languages, your skills, whether you're going to be working on a truck, building a house. And in Navajo, at one point, if you don't know how to do a certain skill, you won't be eligible for marriage in that sense.
Hmm.
So back then, Navajos wanted the best for the children, and they could only see that in other households or another person, another individual who was eligible. So that's where a lot of these arranged marriages came in. And like nowadays, I'm pretty sure it's all over, not just here, but you have to have some idea of how to cook.
Mhm.
Whether For me, I love cooking. I grew up cooking traditional foods, both in the I mean, I can flip a fry bread. I can also make yeast rolls. So it's in our household, there's no such thing as gender roles as a lot of people portray it nowadays.
Yeah.
However, sad to say, growing up, I have seen that in my own family, my relatives. So
Mhm.
there's a difference between my family and my relatives. My family, meaning only my siblings, my parents, and my grandma. That's it. My relatives are extended family members.
Yeah.
But I grew up with the men not cooking, the men telling the women to cook. And but for me, I I I I can't live that lifestyle. I can't rely on someone to cook for me. I can't rely on someone to chop woods for me. Because for me, I see my mom chop woods. I've seen my mom haul water. I've seen my dad cook. My dad makes the best fried bread, like pretty much around my point. So it's really something that should be instilled at a young age, that there should be no gender roles. And all of this goes back to some of our Navajo oral stories from the third world and the separation of sexes. And a little sidetrack, but yes, it should be taught at home or within like the community at least. And for me, that's what I tell people, because there are some people who come up to me and say, I wish I learn, or my kids want to learn. So that's when I tell them, like, if you know where I live, you're more than welcome to come learn. I can teach you. But from there, it's sort of like saying you're on your own. So I'm just trying to guide people who want to learn. And because I know what it feels like to want to do something but not being, because the resources aren't there, the encouragement's not there, the motivation. Again, that falls back on how the individual was brought up, because for me, not everybody was brought up the same way as I was. If I was to be truthful and honest all the time, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I would probably have the whole nation against me or the whole community against me, but that's just me standing as an individual of who I am and what I believe in and what I was taught as well.
That's I like how you really addressing today's issues. Really, like the gender roles and cooking, and yeah, those are skills that some kids, should know. And unfortunately, the society, the way we see it today, our young people might have a hard time here in the future. Who knows? But you know and just same with language too, right? Weaving is just as important to you as your language, and like you said, it provides for you, and that's something that should be preserved and taught, very openly. It shouldn't be something Tyrell has to hide to learn. And and it's true. It's the truth. So, I mean, good for you for addressing all of that, those issues and your thoughts. How long does it take to get a design, everything together, start to finish, like one rug, like the one behind you, I think?
That's one of the questions I usually try to avoid. It's always asked, and it's something that's like, okay.
You
So
should have
I'll
told me
tell.
before.
No, but let me explain it though. It's I think I just repeat myself all the time, but I think I'll go into further depth here. There's really no time frame on how long it's going to take a person. It's all about time management of how much you put into the rug. And some of the designs are a lot easier, some of them are a little bit different, depending on who you were taught and what design you're going to go with. A rug can take at least a person who's skilled at least 1 week. But again, that also depends on the size and then the type of yarn that they're going to be using, whether it's the fine or the medium yarn or the hand spun yarn. And so there's really a lot that goes into it that people don't realize is something. I think a lot of people think it takes just a couple of hours or a couple of days and a couple of nights. My last rug that I finished, that large storm pattern, it took me, I would probably say a little over 3 months.
Oh, wow.
However, there were setbacks on there as well. Things come up. So my entire full commitment to the rug, it was extended more and more. So one of the things that I was talking with one of the other weavers who I looked up to, he said a three a full size Navajo blanket, chief's blankets, it would take 3 skilled weavers at least 6 months to complete. And so the time frame, it can vary on what you're weaving or what the customer wants. And it really depends. Like I said, time management. For me, I wish I could sit there all day. I mean, like I literally do, but there's also other priorities that come into play. In the morning, I have the sheep, I have the horses, I have the water, the woods, chopped woods, and then even cooking and everything like that. It all comes together. So I rarely have time to actually sit there and weave. The only time I can probably say that is at night. And a lot of the time, that's when I get a lot of my weavings done. When I first started weaving, I used to weave up until 3 or 4 in the morning, and I would wake up again at 7 or 6, and then my day starts again, doing everything else but weaving. Probably until about around 9 p.m., I would start weaving again. And then from 9 all the way past midnight to whenever again, I'll be weaving. Same process over and over again. And that was before I had sheep. So now that I have sheep, it's like another chore added to the list. So I have to go to sleep a little bit earlier than I would want, wake up earlier than I would want to as well. Because for me, my sheep are my priority, and I tend to them before I tend to my weaving. I'm not sure how other weavers they also do theirs as well, but that's just for me. It falls back really on time management. So depending on what the person is looking for, the customer, or what you as a weaver want to weave, it's really about how much time you put into it, is how long it takes.
Hmm. Nice. I like how you learn these guiding principles along in your culture. And that's really what it's all about. It's just like ceremony. One time I asked, I was it was a sweat lodge ceremony. How long does it take? Me and my young thinking, there is no time in the spirit world, and that's pretty much how. But you're a busy guy. I think the from 6 a.m. to the next day, man, I drove 24 hours yesterday, and that's too much. So, and with the sheep, you need that's what it was. It was you made the rug out of sheep wool from start to finish. I believe that video I saw of you. And so the sheep is that for your the weaving?
I'm sorry, what's that?
The sheep you have now, is it for all your weaving that you do? You use the wool?
Yes. So this history behind the sheep and weaving is, before we had sheep, we would use, from what I was told, was there was a time when they used to use their hair to weave with. The women and children would cut their hair, and that's what they would use to weave, the men. And then gradually became yucca fibers. They found cotton growing in the canyons. And gradually, historically, people will say that the Spaniards brought the sheep with them from over the seas into Mexico, from Mexico into where we're at.
Mhm.
However, traditional historic perspective is we've always had sheep here. We had the big mountain sheep, the Bensa. So we would use their wool with our weaving as well. And after that is when the sheep came to us. And one of the first sheep that were given to us is the Navajo churro. And so that's one of the sheep that I was able to obtain some of them, and that's what I have now. But back to your question, yes, my sheep are all for my weaving. Not only that, but if we feel the need to butcher, we'll also butcher them and eat them as well, because they are medicine, and we pretty much take care of them though as like our own. So, but for me, I have them specifically just for my weaving, and I my little hogan is like full of yarn. Even over at our shade house, there's nothing but sheep wool. People are donating their sheep wool to me because they have no use for them, because the stores, the trading posts, they're not buying the wool no more. So it's just they just bag them up and people just throw them in trash. People just burn them, and so that's when people found out that I started making my own yarn out of the sheep wool for my rugs, and they just been giving it to me left and right. So I have a whole like bundle of wool hidden away, waiting to be fixed and processed and everything. And so it's taking some time, but it's what keeps me busy. So back to time
Yeah.
management as well. I have to card and spin the wool again before I can actually weave again. So hardly do I ever just sit here and do nothing, let alone sit in front of the TV. That's my biggest fear is finding myself just lounging on the couch looking at a big black or a big screen in front of me. That's my to be done. And in Navajo, we say Ajitogo aid ako hanan nishwalantle. Do Ajitogo oshi the bebaga astis do Those the Zoshin Oshin the Bebaga Hans Chada Dole, the Hans Chadoshin or the Benish Kada Dole. And that pretty much translates as if you're a weaver, you always have something to do. There's always a work to be done. If you're not weaving, you're spinning the wool. If you're not spinning the wool, you're carding the wool. If you're not carding the wool, you'll be walking after the sheep again. But nowadays, people find it more convenient to go to the store and buy the yarn from there rather than actually sit there and hand card it, hand spin the wool, hand dye it, traditional dye it, and everything. So a lot goes into what I'm doing, how I do my weaving, rather than just going to the store and buying it already ready and set to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Good for you. Um, what here's the one question. What does it sell for? What do you sell, one of your rugs for? I don't know what size they come in or what the market is like down there, but
The Bahajid the Janithan. I don't know if you understand that, but
no.
I'll have you figure that out or find someone to translate for you. But so there's actually a rug. You can't really see it, but um, this rug it's also hand carded, hand spun by one of our relatives, and she wove it. At the time, I would probably say this is probably in the late 1990s, and she sold it only for like $75, and she sold it to my parents. She needed the money, but looking back, I wouldn't have sold it for 75, let alone 100. I would have sold it something 3 times the price, or maybe even 4 times the price of what
Oh,
they bought it for.
wow.
Because, like I said, going to the store is easier. It's convenient to buy the yarns already ready to go. When you spin the wool, produce your own yarn, the price it actually triples. The value of it actually triples. So in my early works, yes, I was spinning or I was weaving with the store bought yarn because I had no idea on how to card and spin. And
Mhm,
which again also falls back on me having to teach myself how to do that, how to make my own yarn as well.
mhm.
So I have a rug here. It's actually a saddle blanket. Um, hand carded, hand spun, and traditional dyed. The value of this is probably should be, but this one actually sold for 500.
Wow.
And a lot of my buyers, they're actually not Navajos. Only I would probably say a third of my customers have been Navajos. And all of my customers have all been women, Navajo women who bought from me. And so that's where a lot of the consideration of payment and price comes in. But
Okay.
people don't understand how much work actually goes into weaving. If it was easy, we would all be doing it. If it
Mm.
was easy, none of us would have to break our backs for it. So the time that goes into it, this is where I also talk about it. This can also relate to silversmiths, people who also make jewelry,
Yeah.
because this ring, for example, I have, there was actually a set for which in the value came out to 500, and the person who made it said, "Oh, I can get it done in a couple of days, which like 3 days the most." So 3 days for this, and I would say over a month for something like this, which does not include the carding and spinning again.
Mhm.
So that's where, for me, I know what it's like to silversmith. I understand the prices because the prices vary on the silver and the product and the supplies. But for weavers who actually produce their own wool, that's not into consideration of paying for the hay, paying for the gas, the hot water, walking after them, the labor, taking care of them year round. So that's where something a lot of I often say Navajo weavers sell themselves short. They sell themselves cheap is how I usually say it, but yet we still continue to do it because it's something that we love and it's something that I think a lot of people won't ever give up. We know not everybody can do it.
Mhm. And it's something that that's really a part of your culture too. Like it's original. You're buying something original that's been hundreds and thousands of years probably, and that's how I see it. The significance of it, and it's like beadwork. I don't know. You guys do beadwork down there?
Yes, in my earlier years, when I was a teenager, I actually used to do beadwork. It's sort of what
Deadly.
got me through college doing beadwork, and during the summer I would do silversmith again, and that's also what helped me with college as well. And and I didn't see myself moving off the reservation. So that's when I started weaving, and I stuck with it ever since then.
Mm. What did you go to college for?
Well, I should have said I never actually finished. I went to college for nursing. I wanted to be a nurse,
Hmm.
and last time I checked, I have either 3 or 5 credits that I needed to graduate, but I just never went back due to some family circumstances, and it's just I just can't see myself there anymore. Since then, I sort of wanted to lean more towards teaching, more towards education, like a culture teacher, and people have suggested it, but I think I'm good with where I'm at right now.
That's good. I'm in university right now to be a indigenous social worker, and like some days I do have those moments where I'm like, hey, I would love to be a podcaster, just all day, talk to people, and then hear these stories. I like how when you're telling something, you just wander off and you're telling more than you want to tell. That's the best, that's the best conversation to have because you're just learning and learning and learning.
Hmm.
So don't be shy. Keep doing that. Yeah, I like like I said about the beadwork. There's many people I know. I had Jamie Billette. She makes her own earrings and all these feathers and she went through the whole process of like dyeing the feathers and making the beaded earrings and everything. And there's something I saw on social media that you should take indigenous beadwork and all that stuff as a commodity or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I believe that. I mean, one day, hopefully it's not, but hopefully it's not gone. It's
Yeah.
almost the same with pottery work too. It takes like 3 or 4 days to finish, but in between we have to cook clean pottery work. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I wanna get into you told me earlier that you're not really fluent, but from what you share in your language there, you sound pretty good, and what is it? Did you grow up, speaking the language, or did you have to learn, at a later age?
um, I where we live is in the back roads. We don't live nowhere near the highway. It's 10 miles on dirt road, and living where we live is where my great grandparents and my mom's grandparents established. So we, my older brother and I, we pretty much grew up around them, and they knew little to no English. At the time, we were going to school, but at the same time, we were also living next to them. So we had trouble kind of talking with them. We had some idea. I think the problem we had was speaking it. We could hear and understand it, but that's where my mom's aunt, her name was Rita, she would come in and she would translate for us. And so that's kind of where it all started. And growing up, my parents, they pretty much speak Navajo like more 110%. They speak it to us, but we never really picked up on speaking it back. And we would mostly respond in English. But sad to say, like some cousins of mine, some friends that I know, when they speak, when we speak to them in Navajo, and they don't know what we're saying,
Why is
and
that?
it falls. I always say it falls back on the parents. It's
Hmm.
something that should be a priority because for me, I really want to learn to speak it 110% because one of my motivations is I want to be able to have a conversation with my own parents when they get old. That's what motivates me. Not only that, but it also motivates my nephews. I want them to be able to understand what my parents will be saying one day. And same with my grandparents. I still have my grandma and my grandpa, and they both speak English. They speak Navajo as well, so we can communicate left and right either way. But it just has more meaning to speak Navajo to them and hear it from them as well. There
Hmm.
is some Navajo words that have no translation, that have multiple translation on how you say it, who you say it to, and why you say it. So for me, learning Navajo is going to really establish who I am and what I was meant to do in my life, in my parents' life.
Hmm.
And that's just me speaking on my behalf. I just really wish more people could sort of see it the way that I do. But like I said, even some of my own cousins, they have no idea what we're saying, and that's sort of what motivated me to really speak more with my parents. And like I'll ask them like, how do you say ah ajitoni? And going to ceremonies, being around elders is also a way for me to learn because I want to joke with them. I want to laugh with them. I want to hear what they have to say. And I want to understand not only in my heart, but in my mind. And to someday for me to be able to speak the way that they do to others as well. So, yeah.
And to be an elder, eh? Be congruent, congruent to in all areas. Really, that's that's good stuff. That's good for you. You still have your grandparents. I lost all my grandparents, and just you took me back on thinking about you sit with the old people, and you're right, it's always a good time. They're always having their own jokes and laughing their own way. And yeah, I hope there's some young people that heard you say that, where they would say, hey, I want to learn Dene, and to be able to experience that. So you know what is it like? You said you always respond in in English, and now like you can't always converse with people. So what are some of the other challenges that you face in having to keep your language? I mean, you have your language, but it's just always being able to do it, right?
um, I think a lot of it falls back on I have no one to talk with like this. I have people that I know, like some friends, but they don't speak it. I do have one. I call her my sister. She also speaks Navajo pretty well. So whenever we go on road trips, we'll be laughing in Navajo. We'll be joking in Navajo. Um, it's I wouldn't say it's a sensitive topic, but it's something that does need to be addressed. Like I said, it starts at home, but a lot of the times it's the schools who sometimes fail us. When I was going to school in Rock Point, which is the local school here, Rock Point is a bilingual school, and Navajo language is one of the first languages that they speak there, whether it's math, science, English, just PE, everything was done in Navajo. And it's probably not until junior high is when English became the more of a priority language. However, I actually didn't fully go to school there, only my first 2 years of elementary. Then I was transferred to another school, a unified school in Red Mesa. It wasn't as strict as it was as Rock Point was, but there was Navajo culture, there was Navajo language, and the lady who taught it, I actually know her. She was also from Rock Point, so that's where I learned how to approach Navajo, speaking Navajo more at something where I can understand it, which falls back on our vowels, the A, E, I, O, and understanding how they're pronounced, why they're pronounced, and even down to spelling in Navajo. But same with Rock Point as well. Rock Point was one of the classes that they really enforced how to speak, how to read, and how to write all in Navajo. But after graduating, I learned that they sort of did away with all of that at the school that I went to in Red Mesa. I don't know how it is there now. I don't know anybody who is going to school there or anything. With Rock Point, I also had no idea what they're doing there as well. So that's why for me, I always usually fall back on these ceremonies, the social events that I go to where the elders are, where I know they're speaking Navajo. And a lot of it just really has to do with you as an individual, how much commitment and dedication you want out of it. So for me, I'm still pushing myself, even just to strike up a conversation in Navajo with someone. That's what I'm doing on my end. That's what I'm trying to achieve as a goal to where I won't be shy about it. I won't feel embarrassed to speak my own language because it's who I am and it's where I'm going as well.
Hmm. Cool. Good for you. That's really that's what I always tell people. I can't. I can read it. Like it'll take me a while to read something in Dene. I can't write it. I learned in school, but if you put it in front of me, I'm gonna know. But just like in Dene, like T.J. Warner, he's from Red Mesa, and to spell it all out like that, I cannot do that. I would have to like sound it and make it, use the English language, I guess, to really spell it out. But you know, and I get that question too, like because Dene Yati is the first of its kind, as far as I know. Where I get to do it in Dene, so people think like I speak it. It's my first language, and I'm raised with it. If I call my mom, I'm gonna speak Dene to her. Anybody that I know that speaks Dene, I'm gonna speak it.
Uh-huh.
And but I can't teach it. I'm not. That's not me to teach it. That's what I always say too. Go wherever you want to hear it, and like you said, how often you go into like these ceremonies or events that you're able to be around the Navajo language and the Dene elders.
That's It falls back on how much you want to be involved because there's always going to be some ceremonies, some type of social events where there's always going to be Navajo language. So I always tell people Navajo is out there. Everything you could possibly learn, whether it's the traditional society or the Western society way of living, everything's out there. It's just a matter of you making the attempt to go out there. And that's one thing that I always tell myself and my brothers as well. if you want to learn something, you would stop looking for excuses, stop making excuses as to why you can't learn it. And there's it's just out there is all I can say.
Hmm.
The resources are out there. You may not have it right then and there, but that does not mean you stop.
Yeah.
One thing that I often get asked is people who were adopted and taken away, they usually reach out to me and they'll be like, I want to get in contact with my Navajo roots. But I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't have a definite answer for you. I'm sorry, but which is true because with how big of a people that we are in the Navajo Nation, they could be from anywhere.
Hmm.
And even down to that, it's just where you live, it's going to be different. People, even just within my community, a lot of the teachings is different. The pronunciations, the way people speak, whether you're the Eastern Agency, Western Agency, Central Agency Navajo, it all varies on how people talk in Navajo.
Hmm.
And so it's really a broad question when it comes to something like that. And you
Yeah.
always have to put into consideration that there are other Navajos who were taught differently. And it's just like I said, I'm just speaking for me. I do not speak for the rest of the Navajo Nation. And so yeah.
Yeah, that's some good points. You're talking about challenges, and this is something we talked about here before we started, and it's something that I know a young people they feel is they feel they're being made fun of if they don't say something right, and is that something you kind of faced with some people, and what do you say to those people that maybe they don't cut you down, but stop you a bit, and maybe they're a hindrance, right?
How could I translate it? mm, with the band, anint onshin na dolin. Ahat ishin nispeho dozon akwe benajil kitolis akhishin biche adogas. Hashet ajile hashet ajdenile. And there's always going to be some belittlement wherever you go. I've been there with my own family. I've encountered it multiple times. People have made fun of me because of how I say something in Navajo slightly wrong or different. And it's really so let me go back a little. It falls back on teachings.
Hmm.
There's teasing that involves in Navajo. When someone makes, it's not necessarily making fun of someone, it's just them laughing about you. If you can laugh about yourself, then you can laugh about others as well. So when someone used to laugh about me, yeah, I used to feel discouraged at one point, but I learned to twist it around and say, I'm gonna do better next time. I'm gonna do it something, I'm gonna say it differently next time. I'm gonna ask how to say it better. So that's what I did. I never let it bring me down or tear me down. I used it as a motivation. But nowadays, in today's society, it's like you can tease someone and they'll take it the wrong way.
Hmm.
We live in a society where we have become sensitive, where one word can change everyone against another person, but yet we cannot apply it to ourselves. We're so quick to look elsewhere that we cannot see it at our own household. That's the way I see it. So I tell people, let them make fun of you, let them tease you about it, but don't ever let it stop you. So it's something that needs to be addressed because oftentimes parents will shelter their kids from something like that. But it falls back on teasing. Same thing with when a young boy goes through puberty when his voice changes. Oftentimes the uncles or the male individuals will tease the young boy about what he's going through, the physical changes, his body, everything. Same with the young girls as well. During the puberty ceremony, they'll often tease her and be like, go make on you a husband, or go do this, go do that. They mean it in a kind, respectful manner. It's not something to where they're trying to degrade or downgrade you as well. It's it should be applied to learning your language as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, something with criticism is what people tend to lean towards and use it as an excuse. And I've heard it before where they'll say, so and so made fun of me, so I don't want to learn. They're just gonna laugh at me.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, don't don't allow them to laugh at you then. Do better next time is what I tell people. You're not gonna get it right the first time. You're not gonna get it right the second time. And it's one good example I always say is learning anything is just like learning to have sex. Your parents can only talk to you about something so much, but they're not going to show you how to have sex. That falls back on you. You teach yourself how to have sex. Same, it can be also taught in Navajo weaving. It can be same with Navajo teachings and Navajo language. It's something you'll learn from. What if I do it like this? What if I do it differently again? And it's just, I'm pretty sure people probably wouldn't want me to use that as an example, but that's the reality of it. If you look at it,
Yeah.
no one can tell you what makes you happy, only you when it comes to something like that, when you're in a situation like that. So if you know it's something that makes you feel good about yourself, you'll do it better next time. Your performance will be better next time. It should
Mhm.
be the same with your language as well.
Yeah.
And learn to take criticism is what I tell people. Let them laugh at you, but don't let them laugh at you in the long run again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's true. I've had that. I've never I've never heard anyone use sex as a way to explain something like that. But you know, that's you're right. You give it a different perspective, and many times I've had that too. And the worst is it's from elders, like older people. You know, like we're taught to respect our elders and look up to them, but when they say something and it gets you off guard, you're like it gets you off, like it gets you off track, kind of. Uh-oh. Looks like a res Wi-Fi down in the Navajo Nation is crapped out. So, hmm, that sucks. But anyways, we'll just take a couple minutes for him to come back. If you got any questions, don't be shy to throw it in the comments. For myself or Tyrell. And this conversation about language, I wanna continue. Hopefully, he gets to come back. And I live in Winnipeg, and my Wi-Fi. Yeah, no. See, that's the thing. It's showing unstable. But I know Geraldine was on here before, and she had issues way down south there. And you know, I hope he does come back. But what really started Dene Yati was all about the, language and addressing these issues. And he's back there here with us, but you know, addressing these issues about language and some of the things that young people face, and glad to have you back there. I'm glad you didn't leave us.
Yeah, I think it's probably the last time I'll mention that on here.
Yeah, the old trickster. Yeah, but you know, yeah, like about language, and addressing these issues. It's we don't want to lose it, and it's a beautiful thing being able to just to talk to anyone in your language and to share with people. Like, I always encourage. I hope the young people see this and they've heard your message towards them for sure, because our language is part of our identity, and if we keep putting our young people down, they are going to be so lost, and we do not want that, because mental health nowadays is a really big thing. And Tyrell, how important is mental health and play in your life and all the things you do to keep up with this?
It's something where the way I understood it was something not openly discussed as like what we're doing here. There was a time when things like that it seemed wrong to talk about it. But over the years I think we gradually understood that it does need to be addressed. Mental health has really impacted us a lot within recent years. And I often say the way the individual is brought up with it. I'm not saying I never dealt with it. I'm not saying I've never met someone who has, but it's been there and it's always has been there. But for me, mental health really falls back on how we're brought up. For me, weaving is what helps me get through the day, and living the lifestyle that I live. A lot of people they don't want it. So I often tell my brothers, go out there, go live in the world, go work wherever you want to work, go travel where you want to work. I'll be here, I'll be home. It takes a lot for anyone to live on the reservation, as I would say over where you're at. I'm pretty sure you guys have your own struggles. I have my own struggles here. I go through it, but my weaving really built a foundation for who I am and where I want to be in life. It's what brought me my sheep, my
Hmm.
horse, and those are really what gets me through the day. It's like I said, they're my first priority from the time that I wake up. Going to these ceremonies, you have a better understanding of how to approach some situations. You listen to the songs, you listen to the stories. Unle dan badahanle. A kwenne sto akwat a di a kohot in di a kohot in kwede sto. It's all in there. And anything you would want in life, it's right here. And I often tell people that la belat khate di at inna walyaniki adisilla di inna akwande njono bikajden iyo njono bikaj kwalpaho zino ya hanat loshi hollondo le clean hollondo le the be hollondo le nshite hollondo le na gan njoni ki hollondo do le na action hollondo le nsoke nalake di at ha ishi inna walyaniki bi sala And what that translates is, if you look closely at your palm, at the tip of your fingers, you will see wealth, you will see richness, whether it's cows, horses, sheep, a fancy car, a nice house, or just a simple living. It's all at the tip of your hands. So when it comes to my mental health, I often think like, what if I was working? What if I was living out there? What if I wouldn't be here sitting talking with you. I wouldn't be weaving. I probably wouldn't even be speaking Navajo. That's something that is taken away from us. But living here has both advantages, but also disadvantages as well, just as living anywhere else in the rest of the world. But how many young people do you know who live off of the sheep, who live off of a skill and art form such as weaving, pottery, basket making? For me, I just want a simple life to where I can get through. This is my happiness. People can find happiness in buying trucks, in buying houses, maybe even in women, maybe even in men. But that falls back at the end. Who do you have at the end? It's just you. For me, it's my animals. They look for me every day. I'm the last person that they see. That's what pushes me. When I was younger, I thought of committing suicide because I felt, because the Western society told me I was not loved. Western society told me that I was not enough. Western society told me that what I had was not enough. But looking back, I had more than enough. I had my parents, I had my grandparents, I had animals. What more could I want in this life if I'm already here, if I'm already alive? So when my great grandpa, who was well known, his name was Thomas Jones, he was strict in a loving way. So when he found out that I said something that I wanted to kill myself, for others, I'm pretty sure they would have got love, they would have got affection, they probably would have got support. But for me, he got after me instead. He sat me down and he talked to me in a harsh, loving way. So from there is when I realized what he was saying was true. And from there is when I learned that you have to be a weak person to have a weak mind to even think of yourself in that manner, to kill yourself. And growing up the way I did, it's like a whole topic to talk about. And for me, it's like a little bit different. I'm different in a lot of ways. People who went to school with me, they know that. The way that I'm dressed, the necklace on, I've always just wanted to be myself. But again, Western society told me I couldn't. So even to this day, I still deal with it. Mental health exists everywhere. It exists in me. It exists in my parents. It exists in you, your daughters, everywhere in the world. But I think what really matters is how we learn to overcome it. Not just one time, but every day. It's something that we face as a struggle. It's something that we put ourselves in that situation. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people can disagree with me when I say that. But it takes a strong mind to admit you're wrong. It takes a strong person to say, I'm sorry or I'm wrong. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be perfect. But for me, like I said, living this lifestyle I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't even trade it for $1 million because once that's gone, it's gone. But for me, to ensure that my sheep continue, to ensure that weaving continues, it starts with me. And who else is going to do it if I'm not? And there's ceremonies for these purposes. When an individual feels out of line, they will go to a medicine person. Or if the parents, if they, I'm not going to say see trouble in their kid, but if they can't communicate properly with their kid or get to their own children, that's where the siblings should come in. Hamayaje hatoke donle hastwi hadake e pinina daholo. You have your aunts, you have your uncles, you have your elders for a reason. And with today's society, people, they want their upbringing to be their own private upbringing. There was a time where I can recall family guidance was a big part of living as a family, as a household. But nowadays, people want their own privacy from their own family. And this can also fall back on relationships as well. They're the ones who should be getting after you. They're the ones who should be guiding you, not just your parents, not just one on one as spouses. So a lot of it can go into what I'm talking about. But again, I'm going to end up going off subject again. Something that needs to be addressed openly. It can also be addressed privately. So it's really something that I try to talk to with my younger brothers because I've been there. And one of my youngest brothers, just I would say less than a year ago, he had that same mindset that he no longer wanted to be here. So that's when I realized somewhere I'm slacking as a brother. Somewhere I need to step up and help him. So with that is when a lot of what involvement involves is these ceremonies. I tell them you go over here for this reason. There's certain songs that are sung chin adad energy. You gotta have humor in life. So it's really a good topic when it comes to mental health or anything such as that.
Yeah. It is, and it's something I enjoy too. And maybe, because I'm a quarter of a social worker now. I've been, in school for a couple of years, but myself, I'm in recovery. I've been, I live that life of drugs and alcohol and sex, drugs and rock and roll and gambling and all that stuff. And it's something, some of the points you made there, it's just, you know, I needed to hear it today. Some days I may not hear that within myself, that foundation. You probably know yourself. Yeah, we have that a strong foundation. I've got a couple of elders in my life that are a big part of who I am today. Just like you said, I wouldn't be able to talk to you today. It goes the same for me, you know. I was a cocaine addict and a drunk and everything. And because I've been able to be clean, that's how I'm able to do this here with you today. And I'm thankful for that. Every morning, that's all I need to do is be thankful. Something you said was, we have enough. One of the elders, he always says, you're enough. You have enough for today. And I got to go back to that some days, and I'm like, oh man, my mind's going crazy and I'm stressed out. Life, Western society, you said, brings its own stresses that we have to deal with, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as it's a little different as Dene people, Dene, and because when we're raised in it, I feel because I live in two worlds. Maybe you are the same way too. and the Dene and the Western world. So hearing that from you today, and it just kind of it I wouldn't say humbles me, but reminds me that not to take yourself too seriously all the time, like you just said, right? Like you gotta have humor, and
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully whoever's listening, you are enough. Many of us have suffered from suicide. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and like you said, mental health. I really enjoy it talking about this.
I think a lot of it is we're pressured by everyone else. And what I mean by that is we're not perfect. None of us are, even when it comes to the Di and Dene, which is our deities, our holy people. They weren't perfect themselves as well, but it's through their mistakes, through their understanding of how to be better. There's nothing wrong with being who you were in the past or who you're going to become. And for me, growing up or how I live, who I am, yeah, I'll occasionally have a drink. I'll it's something we can't avoid, but that's where either you can live with it or it can live you, taking control of who you are. I've seen it. I've seen it in my friends. I've seen it in my family. So I'm not perfect, and somebody can easily use just that small portion of who I am against me for the rest of my life. A mistake, not even a mistake, but a decision. Because, like I said, there's nothing wrong with drinking once in a while. In Navajo, we even have our own moonshine, you could sort of say. The holy people also had something similar, even down to marijuana and stuff like that. But it's just about how you were brought up. I normally don't have a problem with how some people live their lives. The only time I have a problem is when people start telling me how to live my life. And I think one of the things that I sort of shrug at is when they say natives are supposed to live a clean life, a clean, healthy life. Like, like we're supposed to be so holy that we're not even supposed to make a mistake every now and then. So for me, I always use myself as an example because a lot of people they tell me, "Oh, you're traditional. You know a lot." And um like I'm not nothing like that. It's just who I am. I hate being labeled as just what I'm comfortable with, who I am. That's just who I am. I'm not more traditional than anyone. I'm not more holier than anyone. I'm not more cleaner or pure than anyone else. But it's that mentality that people have that we have to forever be clean. And there are some medicine men, medicine women who I know personally who will have a drink occasionally. I've even heard stories of when they perform ceremonies while under the influence. But that's when I tell them, when someone has a problem with that, I tell them, like, what's wrong with you then? This person can drink and drink all they want, but they know more than you. They know these songs, they know the stories, they know the prayers. Like, but what's wrong with you? A person who claims to be clean and sober for so many years. It's like, what's your excuse? And even down to that, it's something a lot of people they don't want to face head on.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's about admitting and owning up to your wrongdoings of other people's perspectives. But for us, it was just a decision at one point in time.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I don't want no one to feel bad about who they are, where they've been, where they're going in life. I have no control over that. the best that I can do is just offer who I am to anyone out there who's listening, who feels they understand what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure a lot probably don't agree with it, but that's just who I am,
Yeah.
and that's my plan. I don't really intend of changing for anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like how you are very open and you address these issues. It's like the old way into the modern way. It's kind of living in the middle and seeing things as is. So I've heard that before. Like yeah, I'm sober and clean so long, but like I will swear a lot and I do have crazy thoughts too. Like I don't like to be labeled that way too. And like on Facebook, I like to have fun on Facebook. I'm not
Hmm.
always serious. I don't always use it. Um, but I was thinking about this too recently, where I see a lot of people that get clean, and I'm happy for them. There's so many people that are getting past that, are breaking that stigma, let's say, of the lateral violence from our own people that want to get sober but don't know how, that are taking that next step and saying, "Hey, I am 2 months clean. I'm a week clean. I'm a day clean." You know, Addressing those people that say, "Hey, like, oh, you think you're better than us now? You've been clean." Like I used to deal with that, honestly,
Yeah.
and I cut that out of my life. Those people are no longer there. I don't have to. I don't have to live there.
Hmm.
Nobody can ruin me as much as I've ruined myself. And I was having this conversation recently where someone said that I'll ruin you, and I thought, hey, you can't ruin me as much as I've ruined myself. You know, I left my daughter alone while I was passed out because I was on a binge. I've ruined me already. You cannot ruin me, and that's how I see it, and that's part of you know kind of how I live my life. I live the way I want it. And it's something that takes time, I believe. Just like when everything that you've, from your weaving to your daily chores, something that it takes time to get to where you're at. And that's hey, that's something to be proud of today, Tyrell. And I like how you're very open about all these stuff, and you could be a podcast host and bring on a bunch of people like I do. Maybe.
Yeah, I thought about it. Um, People have suggested it, but I would love to. I just don't know how or where to even start. But back to what we're talking about real quick. One thing that a good friend of mine who told me was like this was years ago. What I always remember. She once told me the day you give someone power over you on how they make you feel about yourself is the day you give them power for the rest of your life about you. So from that is when I really took into consideration like you said, no one can ruin your life more than yourself. And it's just no one can make you feel the way you do about yourself other than your own self. And that's where for me a lot of I dealt with self confidence. I still do to this day, but I'm I'm at the point to where I'm happy with myself. I'm happy with where I'm going, with where I'm at, and I just don't want to be the type of person who has to rely on feel good about myself to feel happy about myself. So from that, that's when I really take her into consideration of what she said so many years ago to me that one day. And she said to me when we were having kind of a little dispute, but under the circumstances, we are still good friends to this day, and we occasionally talk. And she's also like similar to me. She's actually a teacher now, and she's really involved with her culture, Navajo culture. And we oftentimes, when we're in college together, we used to sit there and compare similar teachings and stuff like that. So for me, like I support everyone who is going to get clean, who wants better for themselves in life. But I just can't be the one that's going to be like you said, people who say, "Oh, so you're better than us." When one excuse that I use is when we were having a major ceremony, and one part that there was these we call them Dlani's, people who drink a lot. People could probably call them drunks, but so during the ceremony, the Dlani's came over, and I'm pretty sure some people would have chased them away, but growing up like we did, we understand that everybody has a purpose at a ceremony, and they were there. So all of the high rolling Navajos, all the know it alls, everybody who wasn't drunk or a Dlani, they did not want to butcher a sheep, and there was about seven of them that needed to be butchered. And to no surprise, it was the Dlanis who were the ones who were butchering. They were a little intoxicated when they were butchering, but they got the job done, the job that nobody else wanted to do. And that's when I tell my brothers, like, don't discourage those type of people from a ceremony. They're just as welcome as any one of us who are here, and the doorway is always open for them. Is how we were brought up with that mindset that they're also a child. AD and the they just live a different lifestyle. They just made a decision that none of us also have, but that does not give us the right to judge them for where they are in life. So, yeah.
That's good. I like that. I was raised around the local winos, you know,
Hmm.
and you know, I'm really happy with the way this conversation has gone. We went from weaving to language to mental health to really res issues, and really getting down to it. And we've gone about an hour and a half now, and it doesn't really seem that long, but I want to keep going, but I've got my daughter downstairs. But if there's anything else that you want to add, maybe another day we can get to do this again. But if there's something out there, you want to say to the young people and that you haven't said already, for the listeners here tonight, I'll leave it up to you. And we'll finish. And I want to say, Masi Choner, Tyrell, Dune Zinnig, no Hal Huntai, Da, Netzi, Honi, Nazum, Badura, Liana Lau. And yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Like I said, it does not feel like an hour and a half. Um, I feel like this can go on for days, and if need be, I'm more than welcome to come back and discuss more about it from my perspective. And like I said, I'm an open book. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm always willing to share, and it's just who I am and how I'm really comfortable expressing where I come from. So if, like I said, if need be, if you feel that we should continue, then you know where to find me. But as far as, I think one thing that I would like to say in Navajo is Ashi Akwe, There's a saying that is sort of cliche. People hear it a lot. It's "I'll quit it ego." It's up to you. And I kind of want to elaborate more on that.
Giver.
I was a band on she they not only I had ishin niki njono adili njono banzit kesle. The art hyena that eniki do at so the zin holongo day as the do link learn hat appiin that eniki do hojonja hoan being has egas here that eniki. I was a band I shonda. Ana di ina walyaniki ina huyegi walyaniki ya do nan atasle. Hajad adeno hagan adeno na adeno haze adeno adi inda walya ina bajo baya. Halla holongo ya ad was baptized dole. Di ina walyaniki ashi akwe njono ajdoli. Njono bihinado dole. Additionally, git a diho wan gonne a huehet ago shinnihe nan tiendahalo. Ashi anihe het ago shinnihe so de zindahalo. Bini yesh hayin bahanne dahalo. Huelpeho zenoshi aishin jono benant kindadole benatchen. So yeah, so I think I said most of it.
I don't know. It almost sounds like I think I can understand it. It almost sounds like something you would, we in Dene, but I don't know. It's but cool. Thank you for that. You know, I know whatever you said there, I'm sure it was meaningful because that's what our language does, when we speak our own language, and that's we don't have 8 different meanings for one word. It's just to the point, and we say it the way the elders would say it to us, and then their kids, our parents, and all that good stuff. But I want to say once again, Masi Choner, thank you for coming on. For sure, we're going to do this again because I think, my mind is always going with ideas of how to take podcasting to a next level or to bring whatever conversation, that I can open up. I'm game for it. So we'll keep in touch. Masi Cho Tyrell. I will speak to you in a little bit.
Big
All right. Man, that was a really good conversation. Tyrell brought up something, about that I want to share real quick before I sign off here. It doesn't feel like an hour and a half, and I want to thank anybody that's been with us the whole time. And he talked about the winos, the local people, the street people, whatever you call them. And recently, someone from home passed away. Richard. Like Terrell said, some of the people they never liked their presence because they were under the influence. Many times Richard was, and but if you think about him, I always tried to bring his laughter and joy, and when you see that today, you don't need to get mad at him or anything. Just leave him be, just like Terrell said, and it really made me think of the local winos that I grew up with, and I think most of them are all passed on now, but today I remember them, and as many people should, because although we're no better than anybody. So with that, Masi Chona, thank you everyone. I know there's people from down south that are joining in. Make sure you follow and share the page. Maybe we'll get more guests from down south, Arizona, that area, and we'll see where this goes. Masi Chona, salute. Good to be with you again. It's been a couple weeks, but I'm gonna go spend a little bit with my daughter as bedtime. So must see Cho Tesu see Willis Janvier Hushin Telas Tuazi way up north. Clearwater River Dene Nation band member the Leon Treaty Territory. Kula Dunes in a Dogas in all he died. Treaty 4 territory. Omer the Cream AT Sioux, Assiniboine, Dakota. Lakota is all beautiful people. And you're all beautiful. Thank you. Have a good night. From Farmington.